We always say the gospel greats, the greatest songs about the greatest message, the gospel, and really that is the key. There have been so many different things that would happen over the years in doing interviews. One that comes to mind is when I was interviewing J.D. Sumner, the late J.D. Sumner, a great bass singer who has gone on to glory. But one time I was interviewing him, and I asked him, I said, J.D., down the road, 10, 20, 30 years, how would you like people to remember J.D. Sumner? And he said, Paul, I can't do his voice. He said, Paul, I would really like people to remember the real J.D. Sumner. And the interesting part about that was he had this gruff persona, which was sort of a stage thing, because people who knew him, people who really knew J.D., thought he had the biggest heart in the world. And so that was interesting. It's that kind of thing that comes to mind when I'm thinking about major events. And this was just he and I doing an interview. Another interesting thing was one time, this is more funny than anything else, here in our hometown, the Hensons were singing. And I was back at a school, and I was back in the back room, one of the classrooms, interviewing Kenny Henson, also the late Kenny Henson. And we just got to talking, and we got interviewing, we got talking about everything. And suddenly, he hears this music coming from the hall. And we wrapped up the interview, went out into the hall, and he says, "We're on!" Here the Hensons were already on stage singing their opening song. And he hadn't even changed into his outfit for the evening stage clothes. So he was still in his street clothes. But he ran out there, grabbed a mic, started singing, didn't miss a beat. That's amazing. Another highlight for me was back when we had our 20th anniversary program. Now, that's a long time ago now. This was in 2000, the early 2000, just after the cathedrals had retired, and George Younts had become very special to us over the years, as he was to a lot of people. But we really considered him a good friend, and we went out there, and he co-hosted the 20th anniversary program, and we recorded the voice work for that program in his sunroom at his home. And that was really an interesting experience. Actually, normally on a normal week, it's a 3-day process. It's funny, people sometimes say, well, what do you do the rest of the week? Well, it takes my time to do the program 3 days, and then I've got to manage it and whatever. And we also have the interviews that under normal conditions we'll be going out and doing interviews at a concert or something in the background, in the back room somewhere, and getting that material that is really the raw material for what we do. But the 3-day process is on Monday normally. I will go through the audio material that I have for the featured artist, for the artist spotlight, and for the rest of the program, the other little audio clips that we have through the program. And as a result of all that, I process them, and that takes the whole day. And then on Tuesday, generally, I will finish that process and write the script for the program. And then on Thursday, I come in and do the voice work for the program, and then actually assemble the program and do all the processing that is required after putting the program down, the editing and making sure everything is just right, editing for time, and creating the files that will then go to radio stations for the broadcast. So there's a lot involved in doing the program on a regular weekly basis. And sometimes when we go, for instance, to quartet convention or go away for some reason, we get very precious few vacations. But sometimes when we go away, I have to do 2 programs in a week to get ready to go away. And that is really a push. So it's not just 2 hours that I sit down and throw something together. It's a really lengthy process. Most of these artists that we're talking to, even today, are friends. It's like saying, well, who's your best friend? To the exclusion of all those others. And that's a very difficult thing. But I will say this, historically, my favorite group, and it included some of my favorite people, was the Cathedrals. And I think a lot of people could say that. But they not only were the absolute top of the industry, so to speak, if you want to look at it as an industry, but they also were exceptional people. George Ounce, Glenn Payne, the others who've gone through the group, some of them are with us still, and some of them are not. And I might say this too about that. When we look back to the early years and see how many people, how many of the well-known artists that we actually got to know back then, who are no longer with us, in retrospect, it becomes so much more special, I think, that we can recall a time when we called them friends, face to face. And that's a neat aspect of what we have been doing, and of course now how long we've been doing it.